One of the signs of climate change that you are well aware of is the melting of glaciers. It is now well established that the glaciers of Antarctica and Greenland are melting from below. But what is the real threat behind this? Please look at the map in the middle. The red color here indicates the area where Antarctica has lost most of its ice since 2003. As you can clearly see on the map, this is only West Antarctica. Why is only West Antarctica melting from global warming? Geologists are well aware that West Antarctica is a relatively young continent with a thin crust. On the map to the left, you can see yellow and red areas showing the thin crust. The eastern part is represented with a thick, massive plate. On the right side of the tectonic map, you can see how West and East Antarctica differ. It is well known that Antarctica is also an active volcanic region. Today, more than 140 volcanoes have already been discovered under its ice. Take a closer look. Where are all these volcanoes? They are located exactly in West Antarctica, and most of them are located exactly where glaciers are melting. You may have heard that there are two glaciers in Antarctica that are melting the most. They are Pine Island and Thwaites. You can see them marked with red arrows on the map to the left. These glaciers are called doomsday glaciers. Multiple studies in recent years indicate that there is an increased heat flow beneath these glaciers from the subsurface. It comes from volcanoes located nearby. According to one research, the area beneath Pine Island is rising very quickly because the magma in the volcano under the glacier is hotter and more molten. This suggests a rapid rise of magma in this region. Please note, the intense melting of Antarctic glaciers began when it happened. That happened in 1995. Remember this year, today you will hear a lot about it. Since 1995, Antarctica's ice melt rate has increased by 65%. The question arises, why did the intensive melting of glaciers start exactly in our time? NASA seismologists have discovered a huge Marybird magma chamber under West Antarctica. The increased heat flow from the Earth's interior comes exactly from there and activates the volcanoes. In the diagram on the left, you can see this magma chamber in red. Despite the fact that the magma chamber has been there for millions of years, in 1995, for an inexplicable reason, it became active, which led to an increase in volcanic activity and intensive melting of the glaciers in West Antarctica. It is an undeniable fact that Antarctica is melting from below due to the rise of magma within the magma chamber, and this has been happening since 1995.
Another important evidence confirming that abnormal processes are taking place in the core is the drastic acceleration of the North magnetic poles drift by 3.5 times over the past 20 years. Together with the extreme acceleration of the North magnetic pole movement, a mysterious anomaly weakens the planetary magnetic field, which protects us from dangerous galactic and solar radiation. Scientists have been able to calculate that the Earth's magnetic field has weakened by 9% over the past 200 years. As a result, an area of weak magnetic field known as the South Atlantic Anomaly has been formed between Africa and South America. Moreover, in the last 5 years, another such area has developed southwest of Africa, and it is actively growing. The electromagnetic field is generated by the dynamo mechanism in the Earth's core, and therefore, it is evident that changes in the magnetic field indicate changes in the core. Another proof of the anomalous behavior of the Earth's core is the appearance of a powerful neutrino emission from the bowels of the Earth, which was also registered in the year 2015. An even more anomalous event occurred in the year 1998. Scientists detected a sharp bouncing displacement of the core by observing the Earth's center of mass using satellites. As a result of the bounce, the core shifted sharply northward toward the Tamir Peninsula. At this time, scientists at the Medicina station in Italy detected a gravity burst. The velocity of the planet also increased as well as the centrifugal force. Concurrently, there was a dramatic change in the shape of the Earth. As measured by a laser rangefinder system from the US satellites, the planet began to expand abnormally along the equator, whereas before that, the trend had been the opposite. Because of the increased centrifugal force, magma plumes began to rise closer to the surface, which increased the geothermal heat flow and the number of earthquakes. As a result, new faults and cracks began to form, through which water from the surface began to escape deep into the Earth. In the same year, there was a sharp increase in the speed of the North Magnetic Pole's drift. The bounce of the Earth's center of mass became the key factor of the system's imbalance. This event led to a dissonance among all the Earth's shells, which caused a dramatic increase in many natural disasters: earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, and so on. It is worth noting that during the same period, there was also synchronous bouncing changes in natural processes on the Sun, Moon, Mars, and other celestial bodies of the solar system. And this also occurred because of the displacement of their cores. This has led scientists to believe that such synchronous bounces may be caused by the influence of external factors on the solar system. But over the past 50 years, our planet has continued to accelerate. Since the year 2016, this trend has intensified even more. July 19, 2020, was recorded as the shortest day in the history of observations. Even seemingly insignificant acceleration of the huge mass of the Earth will cause catastrophic consequences in the near future.
Let's make brief conclusions from the video. As you understand, in 1995, irreversible destructive processes began to occur in the core of our planet. This can be seen from the change in the magnetic field. And as a consequence, in 1998, there was a leap, which exacerbated all the processes many times over. As a result of the core of the Earth shifted abruptly northward towards Siberia. We're now observing a complete destabilization of the core. And it is important to understand that the shift of the core affects the motion of magma in the interior of the planet. Look at the trajectory of the core shift in 1998. The bouncing of the core caused two ascending waves of magma from the Earth's interior in opposite directions. One flow of magma traveled toward West Antarctica and the other one traveled toward Siberia. What is happening in Siberia right now? Something that has never happened there before. It is in Siberia, at northern latitudes, a number of extremely anomalous phenomena have been registered over the past few decades. Melting permafrost from below, fires under the snow, and boiling water in wells. Moreover, for 20 years now, scientists have been observing that Siberia is heating up 3 to 4 times faster than the rest of the world. I emphasize 3-4 times faster than the rest of the world. Look at the map. The huge red stain shows how the average temperature in Siberia is changing faster than in the rest of the world in recent decades. As magma rises, it begins to heat the plate from below and boils the groundwater. But magma is rising not only in Siberia and West Antarctica. Where else is magma rising, and what does it lead to? Let's take a look at this video.
In recent decades, the Earth has been accelerating its rotation by leaps and bounds, which means the centrifugal force is increasing. As a result, At the equator, the planet is expanding and increasing in volume. This causes the Earth's crust to crack and geological faults to activate. At this time, processes similar to blood cavitation occur in the Earth's interior with magma. Blood cavitation during Kyson disease is a life-threatening phenomenon known to divers during rapid ascent to the surface. Due to the sudden drop of pressure, the dissolved gases in the blood are released instantly, causing the blood to boil. The resulting gas bubbles destroy the walls of the blood vessels. In the Earth's interior, sudden pressure drops are associated with an instantaneous increase in centrifugal forces during a sudden acceleration of the planet's rotation. This causes magma to rush abruptly towards the Earth's surface. Lithospheric plates are destroyed by cavitation, microbursts of active gas-saturated magma. Just as the walls of vessels are fused by the bubbled blood of a diver, this process accelerates itself, affecting deeper and deeper layers of the mantle. That is why we are seeing ever more powerful and deep earthquakes and seismic swarms. The proof that this process is increasing and accelerating can be seen in the massive double-deep earthquake in Peru. Meanwhile, the expansion and intensification of the pressure on the crust due to the cavitation of the magma serves to intensify the erosion process. What does that mean for us? Soon, we will see eruptions and earthquakes of a magnitude that our civilization has never experienced before. The countdown of the clockwork mechanism of the magma bomb inside our planet has already started. Under the onslaught of a massive attack from the Earth's interior, the thinner oceanic crust is already giving up its position. The ocean has so far restrained this power, but eruptions are moving into the terrestrial phase. Tonga is vivid proof of this. It has the highest number of deep focus earthquakes, and the eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcano on 15 January 2022 alone affected 80% of the population of the surrounding region. If one volcano can do that, what can we expect from a massive eruption of terrestrial volcanoes? After all, already now, we observe their synchronization. The thicker continental crust is holding the line for now, but it won't last long. This threatens to bring on a volcanic winter and a new ice age. The magma's violent power has already awakened volcanoes that have been dormant for hundreds and thousands of years. Our planet is looking more and more like a minefield, where shells are beginning to detonate like a chain reaction. But an even greater threat is fraught with those volcanoes that have not yet woken up. Giants, such as Yellowstone, Campi Flagre, Elbrus, Lach, Kikai, are called doomsday volcanoes because the eruption of any of them could lead to the extinction of all life on Earth. They have held back the power of the Earth's interior for a millennia, but now they are showing signs of activation. When the magma beneath these volcanoes reaches a critical point, the scale of the catastrophe is hard to imagine. Our planet is splitting apart, yet we are busy with something else. Endless problems of the consumerist format cover our eyes, not allowing us to see the main thing. We are deceived by data manipulation. Earthquake statistics are manipulated in the same way that temperature data is. Those who do this keep quiet, some for the money, and some, perhaps, not to scare people and spread panic, so that people live out their last days in peace.
Because it was so suffocating inside. I couldn't breathe.
People die inside the dead body inside the house.
It's a nightmare. Well, I'm pretty well fucked. I fell through that hole.
so that we go straight to the precipice with our eyes closed, while someone knows but deliberately hides or is afraid to voice the truth. Changes similar to what we now see occurred before the peak of the crushing disaster just about 12,000 years ago. Those events are called the Alared Oscillation and the Younger Dryas glaciation that followed. 12,800 years ago, global temperatures rose as much as 15 degrees Celsius within just a few years. Most of the ice sheet suddenly melted, and the Earth emerged from a full ice age. At that time, there were extreme floods and other natural disasters, along with an intense sea level rise. The Gulf Stream stopped at that time, just as it is happening nowadays. Scientists from the University of Kansas have proven that about 12,800 years ago, there was a giant fire on Earth that covered a tenth of the entire planet's surface. Other researchers have also found that large fires raged in Siberia 12,000 years ago. Similarly, nowadays there are more and more large-scale fires that cannot be extinguished. Based on an analysis of satellite images, scientists have discovered that 10 to 13,000 years ago, the largest known dunes formed in the Sahara Desert and other regions, indicating the enormous strength of winds during the Younger Dryas. A short-term intensification of winds during that period has also been documented from Greenland ice cores data and research in Alaska. Nowadays, the same phenomena are happening on Earth as during the Younger Dryas. We see winds, hurricanes, typhoons, and tornadoes intensifying and destroying entire cities, razing them to the ground. Right at the cycle change 12,000 years ago, there was a very intensive seismic activity. This is indicated by radiocarbon data, as well as paleographic reconstructions of the Younger Dryas. During the same time period, more than 12,000 years ago, as well as now, there was a drastic weakening of the magnetic field and a pole shift, which was called the Gothenburg excursion. The reason for all these abrupt changes was an abnormal magmatic activity caused by changes in the core. This was expressed in large-scale volcanic eruptions that scientists recorded in the Younger Dryas by dust and traces of acid rains in glacial cores. Analysis of sediments found in Hall's Cave points to volcanic eruptions that caused a volcanic winter about 13,000 years ago and glaciation across the globe. After the sudden warming in the Younger Dryas, an equally abrupt cooling occurred. This event caused a mass extinction of megafauna. Thousands of frozen mammoths and other mammals were found in the ice on the northern slopes of Siberia. There happened a drastic decline in the human population, including extinction of the Cro-Magnon. All of those catastrophic events occurred within just a few decades.
As you can see, in the Younger Dryas, changes in the magnetic field began, exactly the ones happening now. Then there were catastrophic eruptions on the planet as a result of the magma ascent. During this period, 90% of the megafauna went extinct. There was a demographic catastrophe and humanity shrinked to 140,000 people. However, this time it will be much worse, and soon you will find out why. After analyzing the geologic data for the past 100,000 years, we have noticed that abrupt magnetic pole shifts occur with a certain periodicity. Have a look at the graph. You can see the time intervals when these pole shifts occurred. This happens approximately every 13,000 years. According to the geological evidence, during these periods, there was also a weakening of the magnetic field by 8-10 times. Let's recall that the same thing is happening today. Our magnetic field is weakening 10 times faster than it was in the last century. You and I already know that changes in the magnetic field do not occur by themselves. This is a result of changes in the planet's core. Thus, we see that every 12,000 years, for some reason, the motion of the Earth's core changes abruptly. And all this happens due to the fact that there is something that cyclically causes sudden disturbances in the functioning of the core. Also, according to studies of ice cores, every 12,000 years, there was an abnormal increase in volcanic activity. We already know that this is caused by the ascent of magma closer to the Earth's crust. In the graph, you can see when such eruptions occurred. The size of the circles reflects the size of the eruptions. Take note of the big red circles. They indicate that every 24,000 years, volcanic eruptions are more catastrophic. Such supervolcano eruptions wiped out almost all life on the planet. Archaeological evidence suggests that every time during these catastrophic eruptions, entire species of Homo sapiens almost died out. Taupo volcano in New Zealand erupted 24,000 years ago, and Elbrus erupted 48,000 years ago. Both of these volcanoes are already showing signs of abnormal activity these days. Last month alone, 700 earthquakes occurred in the area of Taupo, and 72 to 74,000 years ago, there was an eruption of the Toba volcano. It was one of the largest eruptions on Earth over the past 25 million years. Archaeologists believe that only 2 to 10,000 people survived this catastrophe across the entire planet, which means that humankind was one step away from extinction.
Researchers believe that this cyclicity is galactic in nature. That is, it is related to the rotation cycle of the galaxy. Every 12,000 years, radiation from the center of the universe affects the solar system and even influences the sun. In 1998, not only was the Earth's core recorded jumping, but also those of the moon, the sun, and other planets. In recent decades, scientists began to record drastic climate changes on all planets and satellites of the solar system. An increase in the number of giant storms and hurricanes, abnormal temperatures, an increase in volcanic and seismic activity. Now, an increased flux of cosmic radiation due to the low activity of the sun is detected on Earth. Scientists have found evidence that a similar bombardment by cosmic rays occurred 12,500 years ago. In addition, every 12,000 years, an unknown flow of violent cosmic energy from the center of the universe comes to our planet. This high-energy impact occurs at the micro level and has enormous potential to trigger a shift of the planet's core. Galactic radiation disrupts the life cycles of the biosphere. Trees begin to massively emit more carbon dioxide, whereas swamps emit compounds of deadly gases. This time, Earth may become another dead planet, just like Mars. The planet's immune system is now destroyed by the toxins that our technogenic civilization has excreted. The planet's diseased organism might not survive the enormous stresses which cyclicity creates every 12,000 years. Every 24,000 years, disasters are even more devastating, since the solar system gets closer to the radiation from the center of the universe. We are now getting into this point of the near interaction. The planet is living its last years, and so are we, if we remain idle.
Let's draw intermediate conclusions. We are entering a more dangerous, cataclysmic cycle of 24,000 years. At the same time, the planet's environment is killed and the planet's immunity is weakened. Moreover, we have not even entered the peak of the cycle yet. Disasters and cataclysms are already escalating at an alarming rate. In this case, underground bunkers will not help. They will simply melt down, because magma is rising from below. And now the key question of our report: how much time is left before the catastrophe of our cycle happens? Please take a look at the seismic activity graph again. You clearly see a geometric progression. This progression has a mathematical pattern. So, having calculated it together with the best scientists, geologists, and analysts, we have modeled the progression in which earthquakes will accelerate in the future. And what we have discovered was utterly terrifying. Why? Take a look yourself. As you can see, the rate of increase in seismic activity is shocking. At each successive stage, the number of earthquakes increases 3 times as much. If your income as entrepreneurs grew at this progression, you would be the most successful business people. But unfortunately, this is the progression of our common end. The more earthquakes occur, the more their magnitude will increase. And by 2028, there will be 1,000 destructive earthquakes a day on Earth, whereas in 2036, there will be over 1 million earthquakes a year. Just think about it. More than 1 million earthquakes a year. What is this, if not our end? Already in 2028, life will be almost unbearable. That's literally in 6 years. Just think, your comfortable family life, your business, your plans will be over in 6 years. And in 2036, the end of all humanity will come. We've prepared a detailed model of the events that will take place, and now we're going to present it to you. We consider it our duty to report to you the seriousness of the situation in detail. We know that magmatic activity increases every time there is a cycle, but this time we see that all the processes are more powerful and stronger. This is because this cycle of cataclysms takes place once every 24,000 years, and it is more powerful. While the planet's immunity is destroyed by the technological burden of our humanity. It is for this reason, despite the fact that we haven't yet entered the zone of direct action of radiation on the core of our planet, we can already observe an unprecedented growth of cataclysms. We've deducted the scale of events based on the progression that we have been able to estimate from the increase in the number and strength of earthquakes. Further development of these events leads to the internal cracking of the Earth's crust. Through these cracks, magma will begin to rise in the geometric progression you have seen on the graph. This will then lead to microfractures in the crust in some places, which will increase magmatic activity. And it will keep increasing even more until it provokes a large-scale rupture in the thinnest part of the crust, which is in the ocean. This is inevitable. There is a 99.9% probability that this rupture will occur in the area of the Mariana Trench. This is where deep focus earthquakes are registered and where the Earth's crust is the thinnest, only 5 kilometers. At first, when a small amount of water will meet magma, magma will break through the crust for the first time, exploding violently. Then, there will be a series of microexplosions. We say microexplosions, although in fact, each of these explosions is equivalent to the explosion of dozens of nuclear bombs. This will destroy the thin layer of crust beneath the Mariana Trench, but the worst will happen next, and to understand what happens next, we will show you an experiment. You see what happened when the water met red-hot metal? Now multiply it by 100 billion times. A gigantic volume of magma from the magma plume will rip the Mariana Trench in an instant, and billions of cubic meters of water will meet billions of cubic meters of magma. Due to the sudden breakdown of oceanic water molecules, oxygen and hydrogen will be released under tremendous pressure at the floor of the Mariana Trench. There will be a huge explosion. This explosion will be the equivalent of thousands of times the entire stockpile of nuclear weapons available on Earth. Under extreme pressure, the ocean won't just boil, it will explode. It will rise a huge column of steam mixed with dust. Under tremendous pressure, this gigantic column of steam will rush so high up that it will tear through our atmosphere. The atmosphere will curl up like a blanket and be blown away by the solar wind, meaning our atmosphere will literally be swept away along with the entire water cover. Also, at the same time, this gigantic explosion will cause the powerful hydraulic impact directed inside our planet, because 11 kilometers of water in the Mariana Trench is an enormous pressure at the point where the explosion will take place. And that pressure will in turn be reflected in the hydraulic impact. There will be a very powerful blast wave directed into the center of the planet, into magma, which will spread tangentially, and this will provoke additional cavitation processes. This will lead to an abrupt expansion of magma in all directions by the factor of 10. That is, there will be 10 times more magma. This will literally tear the planet from the inside. With such an impact, magma will behave like a gaseous substance. All volcanoes, cracks, fractures, all boundaries of lithospheric plates will burst and erupt simultaneously. The Earth will be flooded with lava flows, just as it happened on Mars. Naturally, due to the impact, the inner core will bounce away, and the motion of the outer core will stop. Our planet will die. This process will take only a few minutes. Due to the stopping of the core, the electromagnetic field of the planet will disappear, and the gravitational field will be almost completely gone. Therefore, all satellites will fall from the near-Earth orbit, including the Moon. If the Moon is over the eastern hemisphere, it will be thrown away by the explosion and attracted by the Sun. And if the Moon is over the western hemisphere, it will fall to Earth the moment the gravitational field is lost. But we humans will no longer be threatened by this, because as a consequence of these events, we as humanity will already cease to extinct completely. Thank you so much for your question. You asked why we're drawing parallels with Mars. The thing is that according to remote sensing studies, there used to be rivers, seas, and a very dense atmosphere on Mars. The red color of rocks on Mars indicates this. The surface of Mars consists mostly of basalt, which is usually black. But on Mars, basalts are covered with iron oxide, in other words, rust, which is what gives the planet its characteristic red hue. There had to be a very dense, oxygenated atmosphere to oxidize that much basaltic lava, but now it's gone. Have you ever thought why the entire planet is covered in oxidized basaltic lava? Why were there so many eruptions? Mars is a planet that perished during a cycle of cataclysms. Now it has virtually no magnetic field and a very weak gravitational field, while the atmosphere was blown away by the solar wind. And as you already understand, the core of Mars is practically not functioning now. There was a hydraulic impact inside the planet, and when volatile gases were escaping the magma during eruptions, they oxidized metals in the basalts. Now we realize that the processes taking place on Earth are the same as there were on Mars, because of the processes in the Earth's core, its displacement and destabilization, the planet's rotation is accelerating, which increases the centrifugal force. This pushes magma from the depths closer to the crust, and magma starts boiling during its ascent. Cavitation explosions build up in it, it, magma increases in volume and presses harder on the Earth's crust. The crust begins to crack and heat up while magma erodes and thins it out, and Siberia is a very good example of this. The temperature there rises 3 to 4 times faster than in the rest of the world. In Siberia, the permafrost is melting from below and water is boiling in wells. Meanwhile, the fires started breaking out from under the snow in the Arctic. And you know, there is no other team in the world that would look at the climate problem so comprehensively from all angles as we have been doing for a long time. 8 years ago, we published a short report with a prediction of the events, and now the prediction is coming true completely. Unfortunately, everything confirms our mathematical model. Double-check this information, and you will get the same results as we did. And we analyzed it very comprehensively, and we would be more than happy if somebody disapproved our model. We would be happy because we are not interested in our model becoming true. We are sane people. The anthropogenic model gives a false hope that something can be changed and sooner than 50 years, but we are just wasting time, while the CO2-based model has absolutely nothing to do with reality. CO2 will increase anyway as a result of magma ascent. You understand that, right? So, you know, I absolutely cannot understand why scientists didn't see this and why they only talk about CO2. The only explanation is either they've been bought to trade CO2 quotas, or they're actually really afraid because they don't see any solutions. The model we're talking about is real. That's why we act. Aren't you afraid? Then you are either a very brave person or a fool or suicidal. Only a person who is suicidal is not afraid, but a normal person is. We would be the first to rejoice if we are wrong, but unfortunately, the further we studied the question, the more we became convinced of the inevitability of the catastrophe.
This information is very shocking. And the worst thing is that only a few people know about this. So now the question is, what should we do? Let's start from the beginning. Until now, humanity has never faced such a problem, and we need to find a solution. The year 2036 is the year of our end if nothing changes. We have only 5 to 6 relatively stable years to do everything possible and impossible to counteract the radiation that is coming to Earth and causing this catastrophic destruction. It is a matter of survival of each and every one of us. Climatic cataclysms are gaining momentum, and as of today, the scientific world has not put forward a single working model to solve this vital issue. By studying and analyzing the needs of people around the world, we've been able to create a working model that transforms every aspect of society. And most importantly, it ensures that scientists can come together to solve the climate problem as quick as possible. Because on a comprehensive analysis of the will of people, the 8 pillars that make this model work were formed. They embody what all people want. We have called this model the creative society. Further on, we will be using this term, but it can be called differently. It is not the name, but the essence of this model, which will help us cope with global climate disasters. Let's take a closer look at this model and see what its fundamental difference from the current format of society is. First, in the creative society, the priority of everything is life, not profit. Second, power will belong to the people and will not be concentrated in the hands of a single person or a separate group of people as it is today. The creative society is a format in which the life, freedom, security, and well-being of each person is of the highest value, not on paper, but in deeds. A society where there is no power of one person over another, where people make decisions on key issues together without shifting responsibility to a small group. Bodies of public self-government become coordination executive groups of specialists, which under constant public monitoring. People have all the tools to recall and control the people taking part in these groups, because their activities must be aimed exclusively at the benefit of humanity. In this model of society, human birthright owns all resources: water, gas, oil, electricity, natural resources. All of it is owned by human beings. This format eliminates the possibility of usurpation of resources in one set of hands, and hence the dominance of one person or group of people over the majority. And all this is guaranteed by the fact that the 8 pillars of the creative society, which you see now on the screen, become the basis of the constitution of all countries. This makes it possible to reformat the value base of world society from anti-human to human, and to make human life the highest value in a peaceful and legislative way. Now, I want to emphasize that the creative society can only be built peacefully with the support of all people. For that to happen, all people must be aware of this model. The creative society will ensure a world free of poverty, crime, and violence. It will give us a safe, comfortable life anywhere in the world, stability and confidence in our future and that of our children, the ability to develop our business in a sustainable and predictable economy. We will be able to implement technologies that are withheld from use in the current consumer format. Moreover, it will give humanity access to new ways of generating energy. It will accelerate our development as one unified civilization. Such a society is beneficial to all. But most importantly, it gives us a chance to survive, because the creative society is the complete absence of wars. And this means that real scientists will be able to find freedom to unite their intellectual potential. Then they can work together to find a way to counteract the cosmic radiation affecting our planet, which in turn will stop the destabilization of our core and the boiling of magma.